Have you ever heard of the Gaia hypothesis? It's basically that the Earth is a living being. It's a living being thing, and it's actually all this innovation could be for the purpose of moving to another planet and basically advancing the Earth. And like you'd go to a barren planet, and then life would start to flourish because we'd bring some of our elements and stuff there, and we'd bring our innovation. And it's like the Earth is actually moving its own being.
That's a possibility, you know. I mean, people have talked about that, you know, and there's a lot of mostly loony people that think that, you know, life began on Mars and then gravitated towards Earth. I've looked at the evidence, you know, I've looked at the evidence, you know, like, you know, these are ancient cities, and, you know, you looked at it and you go, well, it also could be like a dry lake bed, you know, like, you know, these cracks on the ground, that's not necessarily streets. This could be just like, that's what happens when a lake dries up, you know. There's all these photos of Mars where they think, well, this is a pyramid. Well, it might just be a fucking rock.
Well,
it looks funny.
That Noah's Ark thing that they recently happened, we're like, oh, we found Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
That's just, you know.
All those guys but they're looking for that.
Yeah, like this is like, if you're looking for Bigfoot, you're gonna find, you know, the only people who find evidence of Bigfoot are the people who like believe in it and are looking for it. It's the same like the people who find Jesus on a piece of toast.
I don't know I'm much more inclined to believe in Bigfoot than I am in Noah's Ark. You know, as ridiculous as that sounds, there's an animal that they think used to be what they think, whether or not there's actually a big primate living in the Pacific Northwest, pretty highly unlikely. But if you look at the density of the woods up there, there's a fucking lot of places where people don't go.
And look at how elusive like mountain lions and wolves are. Like they can be around and you don't even know they're there.
Oh, yeah.
Like one of my
trust me. I had a mountain lion eat my dog when I was in Colorado.
Oh yeah, what happened? Like, why'd you? Because you went out there for like a week. It felt like.
I was there for 4 months. Yeah, my wife got pregnant. That was the main reason why we moved back. Because when you're at 8,500 feet above sea level, you have to get acclimated to that.
You can't just jump into it.
Especially pregnant. I mean, you move up there. You could just move up there and you'll be fine. But you can't when you're pregnant. You can't just go up there and get pregnant. And because she was like horribly, the morning sickness was really, really bad. Like she had the flu. Like every day she was like, it was like terrible for her. And then we went to LA for like a weekend while we were there, and then she was fine while we're in LA. And then
really,
we came
with the LA
back.
air and everything.
Well, yeah, even to LA air. Well, you know, it's not the pollution. It's just there's no oxygen up there.
Yeah.
You know, 8,500 feet is really high. I go to work out up there, and you know, you get so fucking tired. Like, do a routine that you normally can breeze through, and you're dying up there. But so there was that. Then the dog got eaten by the mountain lion, and we had a lot of problems up there. And it was just you know, it was too crazy. I just decided to move to the mountains, and we moved from living in a city to living like literally 7 miles down a dirt road into the woods. You know, a fucking mountain lion in my yard. But what I was saying about the Bigfoot is that what they think it's an animal called Gigantopithecus, which was a real animal that lived in Asia. And there's a lot of scientists, like real legit scientists, that believe that this animal could have possibly followed humans when they crossed the Bering Strait and they you know came to North America from Asia, because they used to be connected. So it's very possible that there's like hundreds of different names for Bigfoot in North American Indians, North American natives, Native Americans, and these Native Americans they didn't name anything else mythical. But they were saying that this is a real animal. So it's possible.
All right, cool.
Out of time?
No, we're good.
It's possible that there really fucking was an animal, or might really be like a few of them left. Who the fuck knows?
Yeah, I mean, when I was going to county school in Sussex County, New Jersey, one of my anthropology teachers actually is on like a committee that has found like fragments of I guess bones in that area that kind of point to like a Bigfoot like creature. They call it the Skylander because you know, that's the but. So I mean, I would definitely say Bigfoot more than
what they're saying though is there's a real animal that it could be. You know, it's not like there's never been an 8-foot-tall primate that walked, but there is. There's this thing called Gigantopithecus. They found bones in China, and they know that this is a real, you know, giant primate that actually existed.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing people have to realize is that very, very few animals leave fossils. You know, when we look at the fossil record, what we're getting is just shit that fell into mud and was preserved. We're getting, it's a small fraction of the actual
circumstances kind of created.
Yeah.
And also there's entire climates that like that's not even really possible to preserve a skeleton like that over those years, you know?
Yeah.
And then also with climate shifts and stuff, you know, that's we got snow in May in Vermont, and then it went like 80 degrees like the next day. It was like, you know, it's crazy how it's just like, it's like mind blowing. But
with climates where it's impossible for that to happen, oftentimes those are the ones that are the most fertile. You know, like jungles and shit like that. You know, you die in the jungle, that shit's gone, son. There's no fossils in the jungle. It just gets
Everyone's a scavenger.
Everything, rats and bugs and animals, and you're gone. You know, the bodies, anything organic that dies in the jungle consumes it, and renews it.
And I think like that's kind of once you realize that you eventually just become dirt. You know, that's a really humbling kind of thought when you're like, I just become dirt. So we could. Like getting back to like kind of like the thing about innovation, like, you know, we're getting so kind of reliant on technology to the point where we, like, you know, traditional skilled like trades are like, you know, slowly dwindling. People aren't pursuing like, you know, being a carpenter as much anymore, being like, you know, a cobbler or something, you know. And like, do you think that eventually is going to come back to bite us in the ass? Like this whole like need to kind of new shit, new cool stuff that I could, you know, make life simpler, like, you know. Do you think that's eventually gonna come back where it's gonna fail at some point, and we're gonna be like, what do we do?
It's definitely possible if there's some sort of a cataclysmic disaster, we lose a lot of information. But you know, I think for the most part, I mean, there's still carpenters, there's still plenty of people that have enjoyed making houses. I go to that thing that I said before, that I think that there's like sort of a natural path that people are taking. I think there's always going to be people that enjoy being carpenters. There's always going to be people that like being chefs, you know. There's always going to be people that like being comedians. There's like, what fucking real purpose does being a comedian serve other than entertainment? And is entertainment really necessary? I'm not sure, but there's a lot of fucking comedians out there. You know, maybe there's a reason why people are shitty parents. Because if there weren't shitty parents, there wouldn't be comedians. You know, if there weren't a lot of bad parents, there wouldn't be a lot of fighters. If there wouldn't be fighters, you guys wouldn't be going to the UFC today. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, actually,
I mean, it's not all bad parenting. There's a lot of people that are just trying to challenge themselves and they're curious about it. But there's a lot of motivation for one of the, you know, for the reasons why people do things. You know?
Yeah, I mean, and kind of touching on what you said with comics, that's one of the questions I want to ask is, what do you think the cultural function of comedy is? Because you look at like the George Carlins and the Dave Chappelles and the Richard Pryors, and they, you know, they have pretty like, they're almost like modern day philosophers in a way.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, what role do you, I mean, beyond just entertainment?
I think, you know, there's a certain affirmation that the comic gets when a comic says something, they point out something, and then people laugh at it and agree with them. They're like, yeah, we're all figuring this out. We're all looking at this together. Like, yeah, this is stupid shit. This is ridiculous. This is silly. And in that, I think we all, I've always said that you can have an opinion. Like, you stand on stage, and there's a real trap that a lot of comics fall into, where they'll preach. And the preaching comes when someone has gotten fans, and they've gotten to a point where people respect them and enjoy their opinion, and they want to hear their opinion. And then this person will get on stage and just say shit that's not funny. You know, and that's a trap, and a lot of comics have fallen into that trap. I work with a guy, and I don't want to say his name, but he's a very famous guy. There's a lot of political humor, and he said something once. We did the show together, and he was kind of eating it, and he said something on stage, and he goes, "That usually gets an applause break, like to the audience. Like the audience was
like now
bad,
you're good
was
a little
bad
bit.
For not applauding. Like you're not supposed to fucking say something that gets an applause break. You're supposed to say something that, you know, maybe you're trying to make them think, but you should be setting up comedy. And this is the reason why, is that you can have an opinion. Everyone can have an opinion. If you go on stage, you state your opinion, and I'm in the audience, I can disagree with that opinion. I can say, well, that's not true. I think that's totally wrong. My point of view is this. And then you're just exchanging opinions. But if you go on stage and you have an opinion, and I don't even agree with that opinion, but you make me laugh, that opinion is going to get in my head. You know, it might not change how I feel. I might say, well, I disagree with you, but that was pretty funny. Like, I had this bit that I used to do about Noah's Ark, and I did that bit once, and this guy came up to me and goes, listen, I am a Christian, and I don't agree with you on a lot of things, but I gotta admit that Noah's Ark thing, that made me laugh. It made me laugh. I don't believe you. I don't agree with you, but you got me there. You got me. And I was like, that's kind of funny. Like, that's really that's the tool that you can get ideas into people's heads with. You know, it's humor.